Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. So we finally had football, meaning every team played this past weekend from Thursday to Saturday. And I mean, it's week 1 of preseason, so there's not really much to judge here. Given that the rookie quarterback that your team drafted is playing against third stringers, and your starting quarterback only probably played the first series of the game. Probably only got about 4 passes off or whatever. So it's always tricky to, I guess, give thoughts on week 1 of preseason. But either way, we're going to overreact today, because that's what we do in football. So let's see. Starting off, first segment, I want to talk about the Browns and Baker Mayfield, talk about their game against the Giants, what I like there, and talking about the QB competition that is not a thing between Baker Mayfield and Tyrod Taylor. Second segment, we will be talking about the Jets and Sam Darnold. Third segment, I want to talk about the Redskins. Took a big blow this weekend, losing Derrius Guice to an ACL tear. And then for the fourth segment, we will be talking about anything else that comes to mind as far as this preseason week 1 that just concluded. So that's how today's show is going to go. Like I said, we got Baker Mayfield in the Browns segment 1, Darnold in the Jets segment 2, Washington Redskins segment 3, and then other takeaways for segment 4. So let's just hop right into it. Baker Mayfield against the Giants did look good. I mean, the way he moved around in the pocket, footwork, everything looked great. Threw a couple of touchdowns. I mean, nothing more you could really ask for in the guy's first game as a Cleveland Brown. Completed 11 out of his 20 passes, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns. Helped the Browns win that game 20-10. So, I mean, Baker Mayfield, I think, is going to be a very good quarterback in the near future. But I don't think he needs to start this season. Of course, unless Tyrod Taylor is just absolutely terrible, which I don't see happening. Because, I mean, if you look at it, Tyrod Taylor is a very good quarterback. Very good might be a bit out there. I'd say a good quarterback. Doesn't turn the ball over and can win you ball games. And the Browns here, they got a lot of pressure on them. Because of the fact that if Mayfield doesn't end up being the quarterback they're expecting him to, then that sets the team back another 5 years. But I mean, that's all this team has been doing is setting themselves back. The Browns have gone through guys like Johnny Manziel, Brandon Whedon, Tim Couch. I mean, the list goes on. They're just looking for that one quarterback. And you know what? That quarterback could just end up being Tyrod Taylor. I mean, let's say that somehow, some way, Tyrod Taylor ends up taking the Browns to the playoffs. Are you going to tell me that the Browns are just going to say, thanks, you can go now? Baker Mayfield's our guy? I mean, come on now. Because the Browns only got Tyrod on a 1-year deal. And I'm just thinking that, the Browns could win anywhere from 7 to 10 games this season. And let's say Tyrod gets 8 to 10, okay? Let's say that happens. Do you really trust Baker Mayfield to keep your team playing as well? I'm not too sure. And it seems like Browns fans, the majority of them, want Mayfield as the starting quarterback week 1. Browns fans, I think, are pretty well heard when it comes to the team. But I think here, if I'm Hugh Jackson, Todd Haley, and all those guys, I'm ignoring every single Browns fan opinion. And that's the way it should go. I don't like how teams tend to give in to what fans want. Meaning they want this guy to start, that guy starts the next week. Obviously, with other situations, it's different. But with this one, Tyrod Taylor needs to be the week 1 starting quarterback for this team. Plain and simple. Don't even question it. Tyrod needs to be the starter. Anyone who doesn't think Tyrod Taylor is a good quarterback is either a Bills fan or someone who has never watched him. Bills fans think that Josh Allen is the second coming, and he's going to be much better than Tyrod Taylor. And it's crazy. Bills fans went 20 or so years without watching their team in the playoffs. And the year this guy takes them there, oh, Tyrod's not that good. Josh Allen is much better. Get out of here. Your team was garbage last season, and they should be happy with the fact that they even got to the wild card game. And that was because of Tyrod Taylor. And also that defense, I will say. Your receivers were absolutely terrible. Kelvin Benjamin, prove my point. Dude thinks he's way better than what he actually is. I still don't get how you call out Cam Newton. I think Shannon Sharp said it best. Cam Newton wasn't the one, this isn't word for word, but Cam Newton wasn't the one pushing you towards the buffet. Let's not forget that one time Kelvin Benjamin showed up extremely overweight at camp. I'm not sure that was Cam Newton's fault there. Kelvin Benjamin's got talent, but, the dude isn't that good. Zay Jones was terrible last season. They brought on Corey Coleman. He could be a solid number 2 receiver in the NFL if he stays on the field, which he hasn't been able to do. So getting back to the point, Tyrod Taylor did a whole lot with a whole lot less last season. So, like I said, I don't really understand why people don't like him as a quarterback. Like I said, it's either you're a Bills fan or you just haven't watched him. So, you can't help you there. And that tends to be the theme around things now. People don't really watch, but they'll give an opinion on it. Go ahead if that's your thing. But either way, like I said, with the Browns, Tyrod's got to be the starter. This team is too good for him not to be the starter. He looked good, connected with David Njoku a couple times. Jarvis Landry had a couple of good catches. Once Josh Gordon gets back there, the offense is going to get even better. Tyrod Taylor gives the Browns the best chance to win right now. As good as Baker Mayfield looked in his first preseason game, let's not forget, he was doing that against guys who are going to be getting cut. So we can't really put too much stock into it. More so you just see his mechanics, footwork, and all that. That looked great. Baker Mayfield, like I said, he's going to be, at least in my opinion, going to be a very good quarterback. But there's just a point where Tyrod's the vet. Tyrod took a team to the playoffs last season. And you know what? Rookies, what they do, they turn the ball over. Tyrod Taylor doesn't turn the ball over. You look at every rookie quarterback's first season, stats typically look like maybe about 17 touchdowns, about 15 interceptions. And then we could look at every great quarterback, and their first year kind of looks that way. Baker Mayfield, if he started this season, would he play well? I'm sure he would, but not good enough to get them to the playoffs. Tyrod Taylor, I think, is good enough to, if things fell the right way, they could get to the playoffs. So I really hope that Hugh Jackson, that front office, really mean what they say as far as there's no QB competition. Tyrod is the starter. Because that'd be the first smart thing they've done in the last 20 years. Honestly. But like I said, I give my props to Baker Mayfield. He did look good. And as far as the Giants quarterbacks, Davis Webb was brutal. 9 of 22, 70 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Like, when I say brutal, it was brutal. It was pretty bad to watch. And obviously, him and Kyle Lauletta are competing for the backup job over in New York. Lauletta completed 6 out of his 9 passes for 48 yards. I mean, watching Davis Webb, the guy looked like deer in the headlights. Couldn't make the throws. Struggling all around. Wasn't great. Wasn't great at all. Saquon Barkley had 4 carries for 43 yards. 10.8 yards per carry there. Pretty good, right? You look deeper into it. He had 1 carry for 39 yards. After that was shut down. I think Saquon Barkley is going to be a decent running back. But please, can we pump the brakes on this guy? I've literally seen only that one highlight. No one talks about how he ran the ball 3 times after that for 4 yards. I mean, pump the brakes. I don't know why we got to be so reactionary. Another rookie running back, talking about Nick Chubb. He had 15 carries for 11 yards. Not necessarily the greatest debut. Not even averaging a yard a carry. Not necessarily his fault because he comes in with the backup offensive lineman. But not really something you want to do in your first preseason game. So that's all I got to say about that. Like I said, Tyrod Taylor needs to be the starting quarterback. And Antonio Callaway played a lot of that game. Yeah, it turns out he played a lot of that game as a punishment because of what happened last Sunday. I don't understand Hugh Jackson or this Browns team. I'll just say that. So just wanted to mention that, but we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Jets and Sam Darnold. So stay tuned, and I will be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Spent that first segment talking about the Browns, Baker Mayfield, and Tyrod Taylor. Now we move on and we talk about the Jets. They might have a bit of a problem at quarterback, meaning Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold might need to start for the Jets. At least one of them. Josh McCown, I mean, he ended up starting this game, went 1 of 1, completed a pass for 4 yards. He's getting paid $10 million this season, but Josh McCown doesn't give this team the best chance to win. We all know that. I mean, it's kind of pointless. Like Bill O'Brien last season. We knew that Deshaun Watson gave them the best chance to win. It wasn't Tom Savage. But for some odd reason, Bill O'Brien thought it'd be a decent idea to go out and start Tom Savage week 1. Still have no clue why, but he did it. And it literally worked for a week. Didn't even work for a week. Week 2, Deshaun Watson's the starter. I don't get why NFL head coaches feel the need to do that. If you have the better player, start the better player. The 2 better quarterbacks here are Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold. If I'm Todd Bowles, I'm figuring out who I want to start week 1 between those 2. And I don't understand why the Jets brought back Josh McCown. I mean, I do and I don't. I get it because obviously he was there last season and be a good little mentor to Sam Darnold. But bringing on Teddy Bridgewater just kind of makes it make no sense. I think we can all agree Teddy Bridgewater is a better quarterback than Josh McCown. And I guess the point I'm trying to make here is, what was the whole point of bringing on Teddy Bridgewater if you're the Jets? Like, I really don't understand it. I mean, you're paying Josh McCown $10 million. So you got to keep him on the roster for this season. Teddy Bridgewater, you're not paying much. But I'd say in that Week 1 preseason game, he did look better than Darnold, and he was playing against better players. And like I said, it goes back to the whole thing. If you got the better player, you start him. Teddy Bridgewater might be the best quarterback on this Jets roster right now. At this point in time. And all I'm saying is, I mean, if Teddy's the better guy, then you start him. But I mean, you look at it, Sam Darnold against the Falcons played extremely well. 13 of 18 throwing the ball, 96 yards and a touchdown. I mean, the guy had good pocket presence. I'd say that him and Baker Mayfield were probably the two best rookie quarterbacks this week, as far as how they looked throwing the ball and all that. I mean, I was watching it, and I was actually impressed with Sam Darnold. Dude looked like a veteran quarterback out there. But you know what? So did Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater went 7 of 8, 85 yards and 1 touchdown. Threw for 11 less yards, but threw 10 less passes. I mean, I think we do know who the best quarterback on this Jets roster is. And I think we are going to be seeing Sam Darnold start Thursday. Let me double check who they're going to be playing that day. But it seems that the Jets are really trying to figure out what the plan is. And I'd say if I'm the Jets, I start Darnold preseason week 2. And I start Bridgewater preseason week 3. I think that's got to be the move here. I think we all know that Josh McCown has no business being the starter. So I think you got to narrow down the competition between Darnold and Bridgewater and just make McCown the backup. And looking at it, on Thursday, the Jets play the Redskins on ESPN at 5 o'clock Pacific time. I mean, it's a perfect game for Darnold to start. You know, ESPN all that day, well, that's all they'll be talking about is Sam Darnold. Then let's see, week 3, which is where the starters usually play the most. They play the Giants. Like I said, I mean, if we're being cautious here, I think you got to go Bridgewater. And obviously you got to wait and see how each quarterback looks as preseason progresses. And they did spend a 3rd-round pick on Darnold, but there's a point where, like I said, you got to go with the best guy here. And as much as maybe you feel like you got to go with Darnold because of how good he looks, Teddy Bridgewater might be the answer. And I'm not saying that Bridgewater is the long-term answer, but like I said, it's just a point where you got to go with the guy who gives you the best chance to win. I mean, you don't need another high pick because you already got your future quarterback. So, we'll see what ends up happening. I mean, the only real standout for the Jets, I'd say, was Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater. Let's see, as far as their receiving, Charles Johnson had 3 receptions, 45 yards, and a touchdown. Robbie Anderson only had 1 catch for 8 yards there. Isaiah Crowell, 1 reception, 16 yards. Let's see how he do running the ball. 2 carries, 6 yards. This Jets team is still in work in progress, too. So there's the whole point where if you throw Sam Darnold out there, it's either he's the type of quarterback where he makes everyone around him better, or he's going to struggle because there's not too much talent on that offense. Defense looks fine. But I'd say the rest of that offense besides quarterback is a bit of a problem. And I mean, having a decent quarterback does mask a lot of your problems, so it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. And I think the Jets really lucked out compared to the Bills as far as their quarterback situation. I mean, the Bills are basically deciding between Nathan Peterman, A.J. McCarron, and Josh Allen. Josh Allen wasn't really too impressive this last season at Wyoming. Nathan Peterman is known for that 5-interception game, and A.J. McCarron, I mean, hasn't really played much over his NFL career. I think he spent, 4 seasons in the league already? So, I'm curious to see what the Jets end up doing with Bridgewater. Because let's say he tears it up again in the preseason week 2. I mean, like, how do you let a talent like that go? You just gonna end up trading him? As of right now, no team needs another quarterback. No team needs a starting quarterback. The only way you get to trade Teddy Bridgewater is if some team's quarterback the starting quarterback ends up getting hurt. And there's a point where you don't want to wait too long, too. I mean, we saw with Miami last season. Tannehill ended up tearing his ACL near the beginning of training camp. They gave him a lot of time to bring on Jay Cutler and at least get him acclimated with the offense and all that. So, I mean, let's say it's preseason week 4, your starting quarterback goes down. It's going to take a couple weeks for Teddy Bridgewater to learn the playbook. So I'm not sure how much of a market is out there for him. And I don't think we had any bad injuries week 1. Of course, we had Derrius Guice, the running back for the Redskins. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But as far as like veterans or anything like that, I think it was smooth sailing for the most part, wasn't it? Nothing real serious. So, I mean, we're just hoping that our teams get through this preseason pretty much injury-free. And at least if someone gets hurt, you're hoping it's not like an ACL injury or anything like that. But who knows? Maybe the Jets are the next team to contend in the AFC East. I mean, it seems that Tom Brady's getting pretty frustrated at practices with his receivers. Saw today that he punted a ball out in the stands because no one could catch a ball for him. So, I mean, this could be the beginning of the end of the Patriots. I mean, they only got really about a two-year window left. Brady can't play forever. And as far as the Dolphins go, I mean, they're a work in progress right now. You're not really sure what's going on with them. I mean, they're still trying to figure out whether or not Ryan Tannehill's the guy. And it's been 7 years. Not great. And as far as Buffalo, I think they're the worst team in the league right now. So, Jets end up starting Teddy Bridgewater or Sam Darnold. It could be in good shape. I'm not saying playoffs or anything like that because I'm not crazy. But they're going to win some ball games this season. They're going to surprise some people. Would the Jets go 5-11 last season? I think they did end up going 5-11. They go 5-11 last season. I mean, let's say that McCown doesn't end up getting hurt. They could have won easily 7 games. Let me see. So let's see. So yeah, they did end up going 5-11. Ended up losing the last 4 games of their season. Like I said, McCown doesn't get hurt. Maybe they win a couple more. That's all I'm saying. So that's pretty much all I got to say about that. I mean, as far as the Jets QB situation, McCown doesn't need to be the starter. It should either be Bridgewater or Darnold. And I mean, if you like, I think it's going to be Darnold week 1 now that I think about it. I mean, you start Teddy Bridgewater, what are you going to keep $10 million Josh McCown as your third quarterback? It's not a very smart business decision there. And I mean, Darnold good enough to the point where I don't think he needs to be the third quarterback on that team. So I think this just ends with Teddy Bridgewater not being a New York Jet by week 1. And I mean, Teddy Bridgewater still got talent, but there's a point where does anyone want that talent? Does anyone need that talent? I'm not too sure. So we'll see what ends up happening with this team. I mean, they got a decent problem on their hands, meaning, I mean, pretty much the quarterbacks are in pretty good shape. So, like I said, we'll see what ends up happening, but we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Redskins, so stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. So far today, we've talked Browns, Baker Mayfield, Tyrod Taylor, and then last segment we talked a lot about Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold. Now we move on, and we talk about the Redskins. Redskins opened up their preseason against the New England Patriots. Ended up losing that one 26-17. No Tom Brady in this one, along with no Alex Smith. I mean, it makes sense. There's no reason for the Redskins to play Alex Smith in the first preseason game. I think he's done well enough over his career to earn a day off, at least in this point in the preseason. And I think Alex Smith's going to be a real decent quarterback with this Redskins team, but they did hit a bit of a problem. Derrius Guice. Drafted him in the second round, I believe it was. Might have even been third. I can't remember exactly. Either way, that's not really important. What's important here is the guy's going to be out for the rest of the season, for the entire season. Ended up tearing his ACL, and that's not necessarily great news for them, is it? No, it's not. I mean, it was kind of weird how it happened, too. I mean, you could see he was limping around and stuff like that, but, I mean, he said he was fine. He said he felt fine, and just turns out, next day, yeah, he tore his ACL. And that's just one where we knew that a big injury was coming. And you just hope it doesn't happen to your team. And if you're a Redskins fan, then you got to be real disappointed here. Just because of the fact that this was going to be a pretty decent offense, I'd say, with Smith running the quarterback position, Guice at running back, and then you got Jamison Crowder, Josh Dotson there. But now without Guice, I mean, Redskins, I think, do have a bit of a running back problem. All right, Rob Kelly, I don't necessarily think is a very good running back. Samaje Perine is fine. And you got Chris Thompson, who's coming off of his season-ending injury from last year. Chris Thompson is obviously the guy who, he's the best running back on that team right now. So obviously when he gets back, there's going to be a bit of an upgrade there now that Guice is gone. But either way, I mean, if you're the Redskins, do you ask DeMarco Murray what he's doing? Do you ask Adrian Peterson what he's doing? I think that they might just have to. Just given the fact that you don't want to go into your season with uncertainty at running back. And as good as Thompson was last season, I mean, could you say that, yeah, he's going to be the same player after coming off of a season-ending injury, which was a lower body injury also? I'm not sure you can. And looking at the running backs available right now, there's guys like Orleans Darkwa. Let's see, Chris Johnson still available, DeMarco Murray, Adrian Peterson. So there's not too many options. I'd say, like, if they were going to bring one on, it's got to be either Darkwa, Peterson, or Murray. And I think to bring Murray out, you're going to have to pay him a decent, like, not a lot, but just enough to get him off his couch. As far as Adrian Peterson, I think that's a guy who you can get off just because he wants to play football still. And I'm not saying anything about DeMarco Murray. It's just an opinion or whatever. So it is going to be interesting to see what this team ends up doing heading into the season. I mean, I figured that they're still going to be a real solid team. Let's see, starting off the regular season, they're in Arizona. Then they got the Colts, Packers, Saints, Panthers, Cowboys, Giants, Falcons. That's a tough stretch right there, I'd say. That's not... Yeah, it's going to be tough. I'd say that, yeah, you do have to pick up another running back. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I think they're pretty happy with what they got right now. But like I said, I don't really think too highly of Rob Kelly as far as being a running back. Samaje Perine did show some flashes last season. And obviously we know what Chris Thompson brings to the table because that dude was absolutely on fire last season before he ended up getting hurt. So we'll see what ends up happening. But as far as the Redskins go, I mean, this is a real big hit to their season, I'd say. So let's see, the running backs, Capri Bibbs, who carried the ball 4 times for 48 yards. Like I said, Perine went 7 carries, 31 yards. Rob Kelly, 4 carries, 6 yards. So maybe they have something there. The Redskins have always done pretty well, too, to develop running backs. It's just their biggest problem is that for some reason, Washington Redskins running backs don't stay healthy. Rob Kelly was hurt last season. Obviously, we know about Chris Thompson and now Guice. So I'm not sure if they got a curse, but either way, it's a bit of a problem. Let's see, what did their receivers do? Crowder, they didn't really play any of their starters in this game. Let's see, for the Patriots, same with them. Like I said, Tom Brady didn't play. Brian Hoyer completed 16 out of 23 passes, 144 yards. Danny Etling completed 2 out of 5 passes for 21 yards there. Jeremy Hill did pretty well for the Patriots, 11 carries, 51 yards, and a touchdown. Ralph Webb, 14 carries, 46 yards, 2 touchdowns there. Mike Gillisley had 14 carries, 43 yards. So New England's running backs did well to get a lot of carries. As far as receiving, Cordell Patterson had 2 catches for 38 yards. And this one where you really got to pay attention to right here is the receiving competition, the receiver competition, given that, any 3 players could start for this team week 1. I don't think there's anyone with a set spot except for maybe Julian Edelman when he comes back after week 4. So let's see, Cordell Patterson, like I said, 2 catches, 38 yards. Braxton Berrios had a catch for 3 yards. Chris Hogan didn't catch the ball at all, so they got a real problem at wide receiver, the Patriots, and it might be a bigger problem than we all think. I saw today, I can't remember exactly who reported it, but Tom Brady was frustrated with his receivers because they couldn't catch the ball, ended up putting a ball into the stands. And, if I'm looking at the Patriots, I can't really put stock into this little receiver problem. Because we've seen Tom Brady year after year basically do whatever he wants with whoever's out there. I'm sure you could put me out there, and I'd probably go for a catch or 2 in a game. Probably not, but I'd like to think so. So we'll see what ends up happening with New England, their receivers. And as far as the Redskins, season's not over because one guy tore his ACL. It is a bit of a problem. I'm assuming that if Thompson is, and I got to double check on Thompson as far as his rehab and all that, or if he's just ready to go and they just didn't play him week 1. But if Thompson's ready to go week 1, then you start him. And if not, then I guess you got to go Rob Kelly. Or actually, maybe you go Perine. Because Perine, let's see, Perine did pretty well last season, like I said. And as far as Thompson, let's see how he's doing. He's been limited in camp and all that. But I'm assuming that once the regular season gets here, he'll be ready to go because that's what it's looking like. So we'll see what ends up happening with the Redskins. It's not like I expected them to go out and win the division or anything like that, but I expected them to be competitive and at least win a few ball games. And I'm not sure how much a rookie really impacts a team like this, given that he's a running back. Teams tend to figure out a way to get past the running back position. So, I'm sure the Redskins will be fine here. But I think I would put them as the worst team in the NFC East, if that is fair. So, that's all I pretty much got to say about that. Wanted to mention the Redskins at least for a bit in this segment. Like I said, next up, we're going to be talking about anything else that comes to mind as far as the preseason. We had Lamar Jackson who played well. Let's see, what else did we have? Jameis Winston played well, but of course it doesn't matter since he missed the first 3 games of the season. So, like I said, we'll be talking about a lot of other things going on in the 4th segment. Not just preseason, but of course anything else going on in the world of football. So, stay tuned for that, and I will be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts.